Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Chronicles of Apple from the apple of my eye, and I am taking a break from my work, but this is my office. So, what I do here is I help children create their own stuff. Like that is a clock, and then I got a few things, and I'll present it sometime. I have special needs children creating things, and so I call it the Special Forces. And the Special Forces is basically a program that I'm developing that involves either a coach or even a senior level high school neurotypical student that would coordinate with special needs to create things. So we can do things on Canva. We can do things. I have them creating their own little movie if they wanted to, and we've been doing a lot of shirts. So I have certain things like if you think of like if you look at that, I have a lot of iron-on church shirt patches, not church patches, and I basically, have them iron it on different size shirts, and that's what helps them, actually self-regulate. And I have this thing where they have to list down all of the I list down all the expectations I have, and they have to fulfill that in the matter of 20-30 minutes of session. And so they would know if they were being polite, if they're not being safe, if they were correct, if they were complete, if they didn't listen. And I believe that this is a kind of program that can be run everywhere. But this is something I'm doing largely for the purpose of assisting the schools and students with special needs, be able to produce things because they can. I know because I work for them. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to really discuss is on the Second Chronicles, and I think I'm gonna have to do this piece by piece. And I just went over some things with Hezekiah, and I want people to browse through this thing and then dig deep, okay? Because this is really critical. When we're talking about leaders all over the world, okay, that we now call them presidents and prime ministers and all that. But no matter what you say, it is still God ordained, whoever is in there. Now, just because they're in there, whether they are pagan or it's in Judah, if it's in Israel, the key thing there is that there are certain prescriptions that the Lord have where if they did this, this is what they get from God. So there is punishments and there are rewards. So it's critical, I think, that we go over that because this is what's happening. 140 nations have technically gone against Israel by trying to reinstate Palestine as a nation. And I believe this is all the Ahab spirit, and the Ahab spirit goes along with the Jezebel spirit. So what is a Jezebel spirit? So the Jezebel spirit takes over territories. It basically dominates a lot of men, and they basically want to, it is not promoting anything godly. It is a total disgrace unto God because it is edifying what is not just evil, but basically taking up territories. Okay, so for different people dealing with inheritances, this is very obvious. Okay. And it's also when you have someone that wants to assert power. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, there are certain things that I have found, and maybe I need to write this down one by one. Let's make it kind of low key. The number one thing is there's a need for this. There's a need to be humble. Each time the kings humbled themselves, they got rewarded. There will be things that could kill them, didn't kill them, or things that could have come in as a calamity didn't happen. Another thing is Oh, oh my God, this is a very weak post-it, but it says, I am so proud of you. So, keeping proper sacrifices. And in keeping proper sacrifices, it means God's ordained sacrifices, not our own personal sacrifices. Okay? Now, in order to not have to sacrifice, the key thing that kings and leaders would have to do is basically, oh gosh, this is so laborious, obey. Okay? Obey. So when the kings obey, for example, Judah tends to obey God more. They keep, the ordinances, and they kept the Levites and all that, and they did better. Now, this is very important. Wait for it, because I have to peel it just a certain way, not to rip it. So it says teaching the law. So the moment the law is taught, it actually expands, okay? There is a fear of nations once the law is taught, okay? Because also, then they can see why Israel is winning. So with obedience alone, they don't have to fight that much, okay? When the Jews, like the king of Judah, like Isa is one of the more obedient ones, started out very obedient. Josiah, there's a lot of obedience. Abijah exemplified that they keep the Levites and the teachers of the law. Okay, so whenever, if you look at Second Chronicles, the more teaching of the law, the more Israel gets rewarded. And not only rewarded, he heals their land, and he gets rid of, God gets rid of their enemy. So the other thing is, one thing we got to make sure of is, okay, do not pretend. Okay, whenever the king, and I think it goes along with being a coward, the Jews cannot eat shrimp and shellfish because God does not want them. You are what you eat. So you don't want to be a shrimp, and you don't want to be a shellfish, okay? If you look at the lamb is obedient, or it can be wayward too. And the cow, what you get out of the cow, it's a beast of burden. It's a provider. It's a big time provider. So those are the animals that the Lord loves, okay, for us to eat. He does not want us to eat clams. And I think it's because there's a certain underground thing about it. They're insects of the sea, shrimps and clams, okay? They are technically insects of the sea. They are also easily infected to where if you eat it, you can die. So, of course, the Lord wanted to preserve the Jews. So obedience is key. And you don't want to be a shrimp nor selfish, okay? So the key thing is do not pretend, because God does not like cowards. So two kings that actually pretended one is Ahab, okay? And he basically there was a prophecy against him, Micaiah, I think, and Micaiah says, oh, Israel will be all scattered. And he was pissed off. Ahab was pissed off. And so he basically got so mad. And then he says, well, you see, like he was with Jehoshaphat. So the two of them said, okay, we're going to go and fight this thing. And he figured he's going to disguise himself. That way he doesn't get killed. So he dressed up as a servant. Well, nonetheless, okay, and Jehoshaphat did not, okay? He looked like the king. And there was an order to get rid of Ahab. And there's also, a promise of God, because he hated Ahab. So the line of Ahab is going to be decimated. So if you look at 140, there's 140 nation leaders, okay? And they call it a state, okay? I don't know why. I'm like, we're not one country, so why do they call it a state? So I think there's this concept, it's a new world order, it's only, they're only states, not really nations. They don't want to call them sovereign because they're under a puppetry. So 140 nations are claiming to want to promote Palestinian, and I believe that is because of the there is a lot of the like the Jeffrey Epstein type thing where they are perhaps under, they're all blackmailable. There's a blackmail for each and every one of them, and should they not comply, they will either get killed, their family get killed, or they lose a lot. Okay, so the New World Order provided something for them, embraced them, and wanted to get like, this is their harvest. Okay, so it don't matter that Israel is winning. They wanted to take it down. So what is going to happen there? So do not pretend, because so basically what happened to Ahab is that he basically got shot. He got shot with an arrow in between, his even though he had like armor, it still went through. So you can't fool God, okay? And God will use pagan nations to actually kill people that are not, in obedience. Another one is Josiah. Josiah was a good king, but in the end he had a sin where he did not take heed of the prophecy. And he was given a prophecy, he didn't care, and he proceeded to disguise himself to stay at war, and he died. So now that's really bad. So do not pretend. Now the other thing is, in order for the king in Israel to do well, they need to institute righteousness. Okay? Okay. So if the righteous king goes and sides the unrighteous king, they would lose money, they would lose people, they would lose the war. But if it's the left joining the righteous king, then they are successful. Okay, they are rewarded. So we got teaching, we got right versus left, and then we also have this thing. It's a big issue. Okay. Even within Israel, they cannot follow Ahab. If the righteous king from Judah, or if the father gives their son to be a wife of Ahab's daughters, they basically lose. And that king is actually going to live very short. Okay, they don't live very long, and the wife is going to ruin everything. So Ahab's wife is Jezebel, and Jezebel either probably had children with Ahab, or Ahab have other children, and none of these women, these wives, are gonna serve Israel well. And also avoid the wicked. Okay, you have to avoid the wicked king. If there is a wicked king, you have to avoid them. Now, another thing to really avoid, and this is unbelievable, Syria. Syrian leader. Not a good idea. Don't side the Syrian leader. That is how they lose. And God really gets upset with that. So again, we can't have wicked Wicked king, wicked wives, wicked princess. Do not pretend. Okay. When I say proper sacrifices, it has to be godly ordained, not our own sacrifices. Okay? And best of all, be humble. Now, if you want to win a war without having to fight too much, it's going to be this one. So, anyway, that's all I have for today, and thank you and God bless.